Hello everybody out there, and thank you so much for watching this video. Today we're going to be making homemade sausage gravy. I'm kind of new to all this, so I'm still learning all the software and in and outs of everything, so please bear with me, and over the next couple episodes, hopefully I can improve. We're going to start by heating up my cast iron skillet. It's well seasoned. I'm putting a little bit of oil in there just to keep it from sticking some. And you can use whatever sausage you like best. I generally prefer fresh sausage, but I'm all out of it at the moment. So I'm using a store brand, and it's a mild sausage. I prefer spicy, but my daughter and wife not so much. Now you're going to cook it up. You're going to brown it. On my skillets, I like to use a non-abrasive utensil, so I'm kind of partial to bamboo. Now some may wonder why you would go through all the trouble to make homemade sausage gravy. Because I can, and it tastes good. I think a lot of people have forgotten how to cook for themselves, and I'm taking the time to do this to teach my own children things that I remember growing up with. Kind of a lost art form. Now throughout this video I'll be using measuring tools. A lot of times I don't bother. I've made the recipe so many times that I usually do it by hand, by eye, by memory. But for the purpose of this video, I'll break out the measuring utensils. I'm going to use about 1 3/4 cup of milk here, and what you decide to use is up to you. You can use any combination of milk, a little bit of milk and water, condensed milk, canned milk, and the amount that you use is going to determine just how runny or thick this gravy is going to be in the end. The people in my family actually prefer a thick, hearty kind of gravy, so you're going to see in the end that mine's going to be quite a bit thicker than most. You gotta love that sizzle. That sizzle, man, making me hungry all over again. Here I have a 1/4 cup. I'm going to use the 1/4 cup to get about a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. If you don't have a 1/4 cup, you can use 4 tablespoons. 4 tablespoons equals a 1/4 cup. Wow. I just noticed a bottle of bleach sitting in the background. Not that there's anything wrong with the bleach. I didn't use it in anything here except for cleaning earlier. But it just bugs me. Now once again, just for the sake of the audience, I'm using the measuring utensils and being a little precise. But Grandma never used this stuff. Grandma would just scoop in there and go to town with it and make the best gravy I've ever had. wife gets mad at me because every now and then I'll write on a recipe card or something and say a pinch of this, a dash of that, and she goes, "What exactly is a pinch or a dash?" Here I'm using a fat separator for two purposes, one for illustration and a measuring cup to show that everybody's sausage is going to be a little bit different. Some are going to have a higher fat content than others, and all you really want is about a quarter of a cup. A little less, a little more is fine, but if you have too much in it, it's going to make your gravy really, really oily and give it a bit of a bitter taste. I actually find out that sometimes when I get a really oily sausage, I have to do this, and then you're able to use the spout on there to pour off just the amount of grease that you want without getting all the extra fat. So it comes in handy sometimes, but once again, I very seldomly ever do this. So I'm not going to pour the grease back in there, the quarter cup that I actually want. Like I stated earlier, I really didn't have to pull it out, but I did just to show. But the small amount of grease that I actually had in the sausage, because it's kind of lean, I could have just left it in the pan and avoided that step altogether. Now you're going to take your quarter cup of all-purpose flour and you're going to pour it or sift it in there so you can mix it up really, really well with the grease and the sausage bits that you have. In essence, you're making a roux here. This roux is what's going to help to thicken the gravy up. And doing it in this kind of method or state actually helps it from getting really lumpy and having those particles of flour, those bits of flour that you find yourself eating sometimes when somebody didn't do a very good job of mixing up their flour in the gravy. Please excuse the awkward silence in the background at the moment. My son and daughter had decided to come in and have a rather loud and large conversation at the moment. So it's at this point you're going to want to pour in the milk that you had set aside earlier. And it is important that you constantly steer or mix or stir, I guess it all depends on where you come from, the milk at this time, because if you don't, it will scorch. And as you know, you get that scorched flavor in there and you won't get it out. You'll have to start all over again, and nobody wants to eat burnt food. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth, literally. It would be a good time to go ahead and season your gravy. Definitely with some salt and pepper, as much pepper as you'd like. I personally like it really hot and spicy, but again, my wife and daughter not so much so. You can add into it chili flakes, cayenne, any number of things that you would like. But then again, you have to keep in mind who you're serving to. So at this point, it becomes a waiting game. You just let it simmer on down and reduce until you get a consistency that you like. As I stated earlier, some people like a thicker gravy and some like it thinner. At any time, if you start having problems with your gravy, if you want it to thicken up, you could add a little more flour. If it's already too thick and you want to thin it down, you could add a little bit of milk to it to thin it back out. All you like.